Hi, my name is Alexander Hayden Jones,
Well, this sounds familiar.
and I'm the writer and director.
Yeah, we've heard this before. I'm getting ahead of myself though. Last year, I made a film called Stationary Bike from a short story by Stephen King. This year, I'm making my second feature called The Night We Met, and that's why I'm here making this video. So let me explain. I had an idea. It started at the beginning of last year, right before making Stationary Bike. I continued to work on it, and when I started my masters, I began with a video essay on the romance genre, specifically the narrative structure and whether it could be broken. Then that brought me on to the thought experiment. It was on memory and how we perceive memories and the theories behind that. It pushed me to get out of my comfort zone and forced me to think differently. I needed to expand my thinking. So let me go back further. I love to write. I always have. I have pad after pad of stories and ideas, even some with posters for the film ideas. And yes, maybe I got a little carried away. Okay, very carried away. Still, when I was 15, I wrote my first script. It was called This Boy, after a song from that so-so band you may have heard of. And I am not afraid to say that it's truly a terrible script. However, it gave me a feeling that cannot be replicated by anything else. And years later, I would come back to it with a new outlook and a new story.
Hang on a minute, lads. I've got a great idea.
So what's the story? From this script, I developed an idea about the choices that we make. Specifically, the choice of a man at a train station who regretted never speaking to a girl at the annual school dance, who may well be the love of his life. There at the station, he meets a woman who has run away from her wedding. They meet and discuss in real time consequences of regret and memory. Still though, it doesn't quite explain it. My previous short was an adaptation, yes, from Stephen King. I had achieved a life goal of mine to make a story of one of my idol's works, but still, I was scared and ultimately used the genre as a safety net instead of taking the leap. But this is an original story. I don't have that problem or that excuse. This story means maybe more than Stationary Bike ever could. If I don't put everything into this, then it could fail before it even has the chance to take off. To explain it further, I want to use filmmaker Richard Linklater, a key influence of mine, where he analyses Tarkovsky's The Mirror.
He made a film called The Mirror that he thought it was his most autobiographical film. But you see the film and it's pretty opaque. You have there's a woman and a man meet, they're sitting on a fence, he walks across a field. It's just beautiful poetry. And there's no real narrative. You're very moved by it, but you can't even begin to say why. And he said, well, that's the story of his parents meeting. You know, everything had a very specific, oh, that was him, a stutter. Oh, everything was directly connected to his life. And you wouldn't know it watching it, but you do sense something. And he said the power, he's seen it over and over, that if you do something that means a lot to you, that the power of cinema will translate.
So what do I want to translate into film? Where do I even begin? To put it best, screenwriter Jacques Schaeffer states,
my advice to any screenwriter would be to write your voice. Write how you talk, write how you think, what's really inside you, because if there's anything that executives are looking for, it's something fresh and something original and something authentic. And I would also say write to entertain yourself and to entertain the people that you love.
if I was to follow this and follow Schaeffer's advice, I had to make it authentic, but I needed experience. This year, I worked on my first feature film as a script supervisor. I had never done the role before, so I researched and prepared with whatever I could get my hands on. It was an eye-opening experience and got to be hands-on with a professional script. There I am, the handsome one in the Dodgers hat. But more importantly, on set I learned some key things that would help me shape my project, specifically with the script. As every writer knows, there is drafts, and there are more drafts, and then a few more drafts. But what changed? So I have taken my first draft and my most recent draft. In both there have been changes, some subtle and some not. I want to discuss the first clear change, which is a switch of a character between a man and a woman. But what does that show? In the romance genre in specific, the male characters have been known to idolize the female characters, even so far as to create the manic pixie dream girl. If it were two male leads, it would fall into every trap the romance genre has to offer. My first video explored that it could be broken. If I want to make my story stand out, I had to make active changes. So now that is a female and male lead. Now the audience see two sides to the same story. The idea of this memory and fantasy can be tackled head on, as best put by Kate Winslet in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
You guys think of a concept, or I complete them, or I'm gonna make them alive. But I'm just a fucked up girl who's looking for my own peace of mind.
So now, what are the subtle changes? Dialogue. The dialogue is key. In my previous short, it was not at the forefront, but this time it's quite the opposite. So when it came to writing and trying to voice these characters, I looked to Noah Baumbach with his dialogue. He perfectly illustrates the naturalism of everyday conversations. Two characters overlapping one another, trying to force a conversation without truly listening to one another, while in turn reveal more about their characters. So the next change that I made was simple. The film tried to convey emotional language. It isn't physical language as Stationary Bike was. Within this project, my specialism is split. I am not just a writer, but a director too. I have a lot to learn as a director, even if John Goodman disagrees.
You teach somebody to be a director in a day?
You teach a rhesus monkey to be a director in a day.
So when it came to the test footage, I chose one scene from the script and deliberately performed it with several alterations to see what emotions could be conveyed with a simple scene. I used American theatre practitioner Sanford Meisner as my key example, as he stated, to be an interesting actor, hell, to be an interesting human being, you must be authentic, and for you to be authentic, you must embrace who you really are. So the first test was of the overlap. Meisner stated that the words are insignificant compared to the underlying emotion. So in this scene, the character of Robin, having just run away from a wedding, keeps a hard exterior shell, giving quick response answers to the other character as they jump from point to point. The character uses this encounter as a chance to bring up the school that he attended, which will later be used to bring up the school dance. Neither character is paying full attention to the other character's emotions. The second take changed positions of the body language to facing head on. This breaks the emotion straight away. No longer are we engaged in a free-flowing conversation, but one of parts. The characters automatically take you out of the piece. The lines become disjointed. Compared to the overlapping dialogue, it loses its authenticity and becomes a robotic retelling and seem unnatural. So on the third take, it's the last take of the session. The Meisner method comes into full effect, as this take has more ease to it, as the actors become comfortable with one another, and the script becomes less about the lines and more about the emotion that these characters are trying to convey. Their body language is relaxed. The eye contact, still minimal, is enough to convey the audience that they're ease with one another, for that it can lead on to the next part of the dialogue. When I first started on Stationary Bike, I jumped straight into the film lab and started experimenting, which is all well and good, but without actually seeing the location, you could be limited. So this time, we went to the location to see logistically what the location could give us. So when we came to the film lab, we could then act accordingly to what we could achieve and then experiment. So here we are. We created a small sequence, influenced by the comps that we identified as a visual influence. However, that is not important. This sequence is created to bring attention subtly to the character's key item or MacGuffin. To put it better yet, an object or device in a film or a book which serves merely as a trigger for the plot. In Robin's case, the veil, and George's case, the ring. Robin's use of the veil is to signify that when she removes it completely, she is leaving herself open to the reality of the situation that she has created. And George with his wedding ring. As subtle it is to see that the ring is loose. Although they are very subtle, these are clear indications of what the characters are. The next key part is casting. I want to have an open collaborative experience with the actors, having their input on the script, and develop the character with them, and try to make it as authentic as possible. So, from a directing standpoint, the main direction was taken from a quote by Richard Linklater. You can never replace anyone because everyone is made up of such beautiful, specific details.
So this is where we need you. Anything they could possibly give to the production will be greatly appreciated. This is the last of our university career and we want to make it count. Our GoFundMe page will be linked below for more details. I could go on, but I want to finish with this.
The story is at a train station because it's where I asked out my first girlfriend. It takes place at a dance because of a story my grandfather told me about him and my grandmother. In life, we all want to connect with someone. That story is about that very feeling, and I am no different. So,
my name is Alexander Hayden Jones, and I'm the writer and director of the upcoming project, The Night We Met.